All right. Are you able to hear everything well, Daniel, on your end?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah?
All good on my yes.
Okay. Let me just make sure. And for those of you that are tuning in, welcome to Shiplife TV, the show that's dedicated to raising awareness of the opportunity of working on cruise ships and helping new and existing crew have an enjoyable experience. Please forgive any technical difficulties during this live stream. We're joined here with Daniel. If you guys are not familiar with Daniel, I interviewed Daniel maybe what was it like 2 years ago, I think.
It was about 2 years, yeah.
2 years ago, and what
Yeah.
this was, I interviewed you before your first contract. We ended up doing another interview after your first contract, but I never ended up doing anything with it because, quite honestly, it looked a little sketchy, like an impromptu interview in a
Okay.
hotel room kind of thing. So I just figured, uh, I feel like it could have looked better.
I know.
But there
No,
was
I
there was a lot of great information, but I'm sure we're going to touch on a lot of that stuff today. But in today's episode, what 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 you guys can expect is we're going to be talking about a lot about Daniel's history working on contracts. You've worked on for what 2 years now, three contracts, and you
yes.
would have been on your fourth if it wasn't for the quarantine.
Correct. Yes.
Cool. And so, I mean, the majority of what we're going to be talking about is the quarantine and how COVID-19 has impacted your career, so many others. And now that I've actually said COVID-19, this stream will definitely be demonetized, but whatever.
Mm.
um, we're definitely going to dive into it. Babe,
Yeah,
are you able to hear both Daniel and me?
I'm checking right now.
Okay, cool. Anyway, for those of you who are in here live, I see we've got 4 viewers right now. If you guys want to contribute or meaning ask any questions, you're more than welcome to. Once we actually start getting into some of the interview with Daniel, then we'll hold off on some of the Q&A, but we'll dive back into it after. But anyway, as I mentioned, we're just going to be talking about the quarantine and the general future for the cruise line industry. So why don't we go ahead and just jump right into it? First of all, uh, let's recap a little bit on your background.
I can't
From
hear anything, babe.
from oh, hold on. She says she can't hear anything. Hold on.
Okay.
You can't hear anything on the live stream? Oh, uh-oh. That's not
Hold
good.
up.
Um,
I'm gonna see through my computer.
for those of you who are the three viewers,
Ask them if you can hear.
hold on. If you guys are, I got three viewers in here. Can you guys hear the live stream right now? I want to make sure that you guys are actually able to hear something. I know Daniel and I can hear ourselves through
Yeah.
this. Maybe you guys aren't able to hear because they're not saying anything. Uh oh. Oh, you can.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
my phone I can. My computer I don't know why.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, all right. So I guess we're okay.
You got it?
Yeah, I
Okay.
guess she got it. Okay, cool. Anyway,
Got it.
let's keep moving forward here. So, adjust the volume. All right. Tell me a little bit more about your background. Up. Thank you for the thumbs up, Emil and Dylan. Tell me more about your background. Right. It took you almost a year to get on the ships, and then you signed on. So
It was a process. It definitely was a process that you need a lot of patience. Like I mentioned on my very first interview with you, it's just patience because it just depends on the needs of the company when they need you. But yes, like around probably 7 to 9 months, it was my interviews and trying to apply for Carnival Cruise Lines, not only for them but for other companies as well to see which one popped the first. When I finally got for Carnival, I was interviewed for my very first role, which was the first one and the only one I left with, which was, well, back then it was called hotel admin or hotel coordinator, where I was mostly in charge of taking care of paperwork, legal paperwork that I have to prepare for port agents for each port that we were visiting, right? Because before, when we arrived to different countries, different ports, I have to prepare certain type of paperwork where local agents and local authorities from that place, they have to check that everything is okay before we give the green light for guests to come off the ship. But definitely it was a process for me to get to where I am today. It took about, like I mentioned, 8 to 9 months before I actually got this final interview that got me to where I landed this position. I love it very much. Pretty sure I hope to get there soon because of what's happening now. It's uncertain. But then right after that, it's been already 2 years and 2 months with the company. So time flew by extremely fast since I
Now,
got the
you started
position.
off as a hotel admin slash coordinator.
Yes,
What did you what
correct.
in that time? What did you move up to in terms of position?
So right after that, what happened was that the company, they had to do some internal changes. So they needed somebody with a flexible schedule because they were having a lot of private events, private parties, like anniversaries, weddings, birthdays. These are parties that are requested by guests to be expected on board. So what they did is that they shifted papers. So instead of me being now in charge of paperwork and other admin positions or admin duties within the ship, they shifted my job to becoming a coordinator, a guest services coordinator, where, in other words, I am kind of sort of event planner on board, if you will.
Hmm.
So I'm just now in charge of making sure that all of these private events you know, are done flawlessly, that nothing is missing, like, for example, hors d'oeuvres, drinks, decorations, that everything that the guests ordered ahead of time will be there, by the time the party starts. So that's mainly my role today.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, and so let's move forward into the whole quarantine aspect because I feel like
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people are going to be wondering about.
Yes,
So now
curious.
that we're kind of caught up on your position, you're working on Carnival, um, going into the quarantine. Well, can you describe your day-to-day routine once quarantine hit? Like what did a regular day look like for you?
Um, well, this shutdown started March 14th for us on ships. That was our very, very last cruise that we ever saw guests on a ship. We were uncertain. We were receiving a lot of news. They were watching a lot of news on board, and we were receiving a lot of emails from our end, about saying, okay, the country is starting to shut down, mainly United States, because our port was in Port Canaveral, Florida. So there was a lot of speculations, a lot of worry from the guests. Like, they were asking, are we going to make it? Are they going to allow us off the ship? What's going to happen? Because they were, um, COVID-19 or this pandemic was starting off. Like, it was real. It was announced as a pandemic globally, so everything must shut down.
Was this
So
gradual or did it just like one day it's like boom?
it was gradual, to be honest with you. We got there. We knew that was the very last time we saw guests on March 14th when we arrived. And then after that, we haven't seen guests whatsoever. These ships are completely empty as we speak now. But what happened is that we didn't really start using the masks. We didn't, the whole social distancing was not implemented as of yet during that first or 2 weeks of shutdown. But then after that, they were exploring and studying the virus. And then all of these guidelines were being sent from the main office, our main office, to kind of guide us and to let us know, okay, guys, you need to be social distancing, always use your masks, make sure you wash your hands regularly every day. So it was gradual, but the first 2 weeks were crucial for sure.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. So moving into your regular day to day, after once they started implementing the regular guidelines for you guys,
Yes.
what was a regular day like for you? You'd wake up and then what would happen?
Well, no guests.
Yeah.
No guests whatsoever. We were still in our crew cabins. Some of us we were working, and some of us stopped our contract. So at least with my regular days, that I had to man the desk with another team member. So they were doing a schedule 2x2. So we were manning the desk 4 hours a day.
Wow.
So probably it was with one of my roommates or one of my peers just working there 4 hours in the desk and just helping out crew members, basically, because there's no guest on board at this point. It's completely empty. So whatever they needed, or we were just there to make sure. And the reason why we were there as well is because I work for guest services. We received the 911 calls on board the ship.
Oh wow.
So we have to make sure that we're there. Somebody must be there to answer these 911 calls.
It's still
Yes.
911 on the ship.
Still 911. Yes.
Yeah, you'd think it'd be
So-
something weird like pound 081 or something like that.
No, it's just easier because it's known globally. So it's
Sure.
just easier for the guests to dial 911, right?
Right,
If
right.
something happens.
I
So
gotcha.
we needed to be there in case something happened. And that was just it. I mean, what we were doing with my friends there, we're just literally watching movies, sitting down. The office was completely empty. All of this noise of the guests and the rumbling and the bus and all of this, the promenades and all of the decks being filled with guests talking and laughing.
None of it.
It was totally gone.
Wow.
Totally gone. It
So-
was a ghost ship.
You were working what, like 4 to 6 hours a day?
I was just working 4 hours a day. All of us. We were working
Wow.
4 hours a day. That was it. And then right after that, you had the whole day off.
So
literally
basically
the whole day off.
everybody got a taste of the venue musician life.
Yes, because that's what we always hear about musicians. Like, okay, musicians, they just work at night and they just try, provide entertainment for the guests, and then during the day they're free to do whatever they want. So it was kind of like that.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Were there any times when it kind of like changed up a little bit, or was it all just all the same?
The first month, which was April, the first month was basically like that, to be honest with you. We were not, it wasn't getting that strong yet, right? We were just basically, the company was taking care of us tremendously. Like, we had food, the gym was open, we could just walk around the ship, be in guest areas. I mean, obviously certain areas were closed because there's no guests.
Did you still have to dress up?
When you work, yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct. When we were on our shift, even if it's 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever, we had to be with our uniform.
Got it.
That's for sure happened. But then right after that, even if you are in guest areas during your free time, you could be in your normal clothing. So it was
Right.
perfectly fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
But other than that, nothing really changed from your day to day. It was really just
it was
work 4 hours
basic-
and then go watch movies.
go watch movies. It was basically, it was just that. It was literally just that. We were playing board games. And the favorite
about the
pastime
bar?
of all of us. Sorry?
The bar, was that like just packed
I
all
was
the time?
going to mention that right now. It was okay, so this is what happened. When we found out that we got there and the guests left, right? And when we finally had to leave, and they told us, okay, now that there's no guest on board, we're leaving to another port to do this and that. So we couldn't believe it. Like, we could not believe what was happening. Like, we literally left the pier, we left the Port Canaveral, without any guests on board. It was just us crew heading to Freeport. It was so surreal, but at the same time, we were so excited. Like, what's going on? This is so surreal. Like, that night, that bar was packed. It was packed because, I don't know. It's just people couldn't believe it. It was so surreal at the moment. And right after that, that was one of the favorite pastimes for all of us crew members, just drinking and just relaxing and waiting. That's really what we could do.
I feel like quarantine or not, it's still one of the favorite pastimes, right?
It is. It really doesn't matter what has to happen. So, the bar was pretty busy.
Yeah.
Board games all the time, movies. Just walking around. The gym was also very busy. Like, we had access to all the guest areas, but nonetheless, since this was going on so many times and so many days, it just got a little bit bored.
Right. And did you see anything during the quarantine on the ship that was like weird for you? Like people freaking out and people dealing with it in different ways, and like what did you see?
People cope with these type of situations differently. Most of the people, at least in the ship I was, which was the Carnival Magic when it first started, that was my original ship. We were there, just us, crew members from that ship, before the whole mess started, which I know we're going to get into that. But no, like, the first month was actually quite nice, because we were hanging out together with all of our friends and from different departments. And quite frankly, we didn't really see anybody like depressed or like they were thinking something that they shouldn't be thinking of.
Right.
Quite frankly, everybody was just having a good time, relaxing, board games, movies, hanging out. In our ship, at least, we didn't see that. But unfortunately, in other ships, people decided to take their own lives.
Wow.
So,
because you can't get off, right?
no, we can't. It's for our own safety.
Right. Even if you quit, like you're still quarantined.
No, we are still quarantined. The reason why is because at this point, we're going to get into that right now, but at this point, the company is figuring out how to get us all off the ships as soon as possible to our homes.
Right.
But the thing is that during that time, unfortunately, all of the countries were shutting down. We're closing borders. We're closing everything. So getting in and out flights, getting in and out, by air, by sea, or by land, it was getting very, very difficult. So the company was struggling during that moment to try to see what were the options, the safe options to get us home. So even if you quit or even if you said, I don't want to be here anymore, like there was nowhere else to put you.
Mm-hmm.
Because the country where we were in, we're not from the States and our home port is the United States. So we couldn't get out. And it's not because they didn't let us, it's just for our own safety. So the reason why is that if we let out crew members to buy something in CVS or buy something in a supermarket or whatever, and they come back to us, we don't know if they're going to be infected or not.
Right.
So they are putting in danger the rest of the people on board who are not sick. So we had, the company had to take those measures to make sure that everybody was healthy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, we'll take a quick break, and I just want to say what's up to the new people that are viewing right now. Chris, what's going on? Emil, I see you got a question there, but we're gonna get to the Q&A section later. Quick answer: 4 strings is fine. If you want to play 5 string, that's cool too. But let's jump into the next thing here, because like my brain is racing, thinking about like how you would deal with essentially, like I'm sure in the beginning it felt like great because it's almost like the best case scenario. You're not taking any pay cuts, right?
Sorry?
You're not taking any pay cuts, right? You're still getting
No, no,
paid the
not
same,
yet.
right?
Not yet. Yeah.
So like you're only working 4 hours a day. You get to do whatever the heck you want, and so
Yes.
but you still get paid the same salary. So
Correct.
like
Yes.
this is like I imagine
It
in
was
the
like
beginning it's great,
sort of a dream come true.
right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
did you know? I'm just curious now. Did you notice any difference in the musicians? Like, were they still playing, or was it just like now they had nothing to do?
No, some of them were like the first 2 weeks probably like nobody was doing anything. But then musicians just out of the blue, just to have fun, they started playing in the different venues that we have on
Oh, that's
board,
great
just to kind of have music flowing around, in
for the
the
crew, huh?
environment. Exactly, for the crew, and maybe just to practice and whatnot. And that's what we were doing in the first month in April. Like
Right,
musicians were doing that, but quite literally, we didn't really have any like that much to do during that time.
right.
Uh, Different departments like food, culinary, bar, and all these certain amount of crew members were working to make sure that we were eating.
Right.
And we had drinks and everything. So yeah, there was a certain amount of percentage of crew members that were actually working to make sure that everything was still flowing
Oh, for
for
sure.
us.
I'm sure there's a lot of crew that were just it was kind of all the same for them because regardless, they're still working for all the crew as well.
Correct. Yes.
And
So
also
we basically
there's a
became
question in the
guests.
chat here. Are you guys stuck on a
Yes.
cruise ship? We're not stuck on a cruise ship. I'm at home. Daniel's at home
I'm at
right
home
now.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not broadcasting from the cruise ship. Although I mean
Wow.
I would love to. I know it was
That
like
would have been cool.
yeah for everybody else to see. Um, I actually wanted to try to get you while you were still on the ship because you just got home like 2 weeks ago.
Like 2 weeks ago, yeah. I got here on May 23rd.
Got it.
So
Yeah, I really wanted to try to get you while you were on the ship because I know it would have been like super fresh, but the
it would have
internet.
been cool, but like I mentioned to you guys, unfortunately, internet was completely packed. Everybody was connected to it, so it was not going to be possible.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean,
It's like
it was not.
imagine your house and everybody is playing video games and streaming like that,
Exactly.
and then multiply it times like 500.
Exactly. 500, 800 at this
Yeah.
point, 900. So you're pretty sure that it was not going to happen.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, it's fine. But
yeah.
so yeah, well, going back to what we were saying is that like in a lot of cases for many of you it was like best case scenario to work on a ship in terms of you're making money, you work very as little as possible, and I mean I guess some people would argue best case scenario is you don't have to work at all, but you still got to do something to keep the gears turning.
Yes.
And then for some other people, they are still working on the cruise ship, a- a- as they normally would. Like for example, if you have to work in the galley for the crew mess, well,
Yes.
crew are always eating anyway. Did
Exactly.
you kind of touched on something that was interesting because since there were no guests on the ship, you essentially had like everybody had special privileges, kind of.
No. So when we had guests, yes, certain physicians do bring certain privileges. Like for us, guest services, we do have privileges to always have access to
Like
guest
what?
areas.
Oh, okay.
We can go to any restaurant the guests go to. We have access to shore excursions as well. We have access to so many things that unfortunately other crew members from other departments don't really have that. In order for them to enjoy at least going to one of the restaurants on board, they have to submit a form with their managers in order for it to be approved,
Mm,
and then they can actually enjoy whatever they want to do on board. So right now at this point, since there's no guests, basically people that never enjoyed or never experienced guest areas were actually free to roam around.
that's awesome.
So I mean, everybody was equal and everything. We were able to go to the pools. Well, in this case, pools were drained because in our ships, the thing is that at this point, the idea also from the company is that these ships were going to be in some sort of a mini dry dock or a mini, maintenance procedure to make sure that everything is clean and fixed by the time we actually start again with the whole process of getting guests back.
Sure.
But basically, at this point, you were just basically free to go everywhere you wanted. Yeah.
Right. Dylan is asking if you've heard anything of when you'll be going back on the ship, and I guess this would be a good segue into the future of the cruise line. So first of all, what have you heard in terms of when you'll be going back, when people can expect to work on the cruise lines again?
Oh, great question. Great question, Dylan, as well. For everybody watching, and I mean, right now it's uncertain even for us that we are still active employees and we are representatives of our company, which is Carnival in this case. We don't really know. We're just waiting. I'm just sitting here waiting for any news. What we do know is that the company has provided a date where they're expecting, hopefully, that everything goes well, to restart the whole process again of accepting new people and guests, which would be August the 1st of this year. So we're still waiting on that to see what's going to happen. Like I said before, we don't really know. Like I mentioned to Jordan, like I was supposed to be on my fourth contract yesterday. If everything was going to be normal, I was supposed to be today on my new ship on my fourth contract.
Which ship is that?
I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
Not yet. They didn't really tell me where I was going. I was excited to find out, to see what ports I was going to visit and whatnot, but
Right.
I never got to that point.
And remind me, what ship were you on recently?
I was in the Carnival Magic.
Carnival
In
Magic.
the Carnival
Okay.
Magic, one of the big ships that we have on the fleet. So that I did a 7-month contract on that ship.
That's
7 months.
That's a
So
decent stretch of time.
I was there. Yeah, I was supposed to be home. Can you imagine? I was supposed to be home on normal vacation. I was supposed to be here April 5th. That was my sign-off date.
Wow.
But surprise, surprise, all of this happened and they extended us because they needed us there. So, and then we just got here to our homes. That's another thing we're going to jump in. But no, we don't know yet, to be honest with you. We're still waiting for news to see exactly when they're planning to start.
Right. I gotcha.
Yes.
We got Fabian, I suppose, Esquivel, saying that he was stuck on Carnival Glory in quarantine until a week ago. So it looks like you got another Carnival buddy who just
Yes, I was.
let go, I suppose, released. And Amanda Hawthorne says hi from Get a Life at Sea.
Hey, Amanda. Yes, I was in the Carnival Glory. So the thing is that Carnival at this point, they chose different ships that were going to be assigned to go to different parts of the world. A ship going to Asia, a ship going to Europe, and a ship going to Latin America and the Caribbean, to make sure that all of us made it home safely and healthy, which was number one priority. So in my case, I was in the Carnival Glory, which was the ship assigned to make sure to take us all crew members that were from the Caribbean and from Central America and part of South America. Yes.
Got it.
It was a big procedure.
So right now, pretty much a lot of people are in limbo. What would you say to the people who, in terms of expectations, what would you say to them if they were accepted for a position, but now the cruise line is saying, well, now the cruise line's not saying anything. So
Yeah, well, another great question. I wish I could have the answer for that, guys. Unfortunately, like I mentioned before, not even us, that we are active employees, we don't know. If you got the position, I'm pretty sure they're not going to take that away from you. I'm pretty sure that they need that position as soon as they start ramping up. So don't lose hope on that matter, because you don't know yet. You cannot start speculating or assuming, because that's just going to play with your mind. Please don't, because that's something that was happening on the ships and it's not good. So steer away from that.
what was happening on the ships?
On the ships, basically, it was just rumors, a lot of rumors,
Mhm.
a lot of angry people, and it got me upset to the point like I had to just steer away from these people. Unfortunately, I know that everybody was stressed and everybody was just wanting to have answers. Everybody wants to have answers, but the thing is that the situation was so difficult that not even the main office, not even them had a concrete answer because they were working very closely with all of our governments, with all of our countries to make sure to let them know that this is the plan. Like, we want to reach your country to leave your nationals there, you know? So a lot of people were angry and upset and stressed because they were getting one date. Okay, so for example, Colombia, we were going to reach Colombia on this specific date, but then 2 days later, we received an email like, okay, guys, unfortunately, this is not going to happen now. It's been moved to another date. So all of these things started, creating a lot of tension and, worries and stuff. And then a lot of rumors like, oh my God, I heard they were going to take us to Panama. And then from there, they're going to send us in charter flights to our country. So it was so much stuff going on. Like, it's not good. It's not good. So it started getting into your head. So
What would
I
be
started steering away.
what would be some advice that you would give to somebody who's just like, like for example, Dylan is saying that that's the position he's in right now, right? That he's accepted for a position, but he doesn't know. Nobody knows, right? Even Amanda is saying that the recruiters like her don't even know what's happening next. Everything's up in the
Exactly.
air.
Nobody.
Do,
No, but unfortunately, yes. And these are great questions. They really are. But at this point, guys, to anybody who's watching, you have to have patience. There's really nothing else that we can do at this point. This is a global pandemic. And hopefully, everything kind of goes back to a new normal because it's not going to go back like it was before, unfortunately. And we don't know yet. And it's not only the cruise industry, it's even airlines are declaring bankruptcy. Like, it's around the world that we don't know what's going on. And this is a day by day situation that we just need to learn and see how to take it. The only advice is just right now, try to look for something in your country. Try to keep busy like I am. Like, right now, I'm honest with you. I'm going to go back to ships. Hopefully, as soon as I get the email, I'm going to say yes to it and I'm going because I miss ship life. I do love ship life. But at this point, we don't know. I don't know. And I even started looking for online jobs just to keep my mind busy and keep money coming in.
Are you concerned about trying to find a job right now and then all of a sudden you're called back to the to work on Shiplife? Because you know how that works. They'll send you an email and then all of a sudden, like, yeah, can you hop on a plane tomorrow?
Yeah, yeah. At this point, I'm not that concerned, at least for me personally. Why? Because this is not starting now. This is not going to kick start now. This is going to take a while, and I'm pretty sure, at least for me, a more plausible date, I see all this kicking in next year, probably January, February, around that time. I'm
Wow.
pretty sure it's going to kick off for me.
Mm-hmm.
I might be wrong again, but like I said, this is something that is not going to start that easy.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean like, okay, let's reopen the cruise ships and let's reopen the whole industry. And then we're going to pack all these ships with 6,000, 5,000 guests.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So, the company is working very hard. All of these companies are working hard in contingency plans and how everything is going to look differently by the time we actually go back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to be now. So that's why you have to keep busy because then you don't know when they're going to call us at this point. But it's not going to happen now, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it seems to me like what's going on with the way they're trying to open up, like in the States, for example, they're going in phases, and I imagine that's probably how it's going to happen with the cruise ships as well.
Yes.
It won't just be okay, everything's good again, and now let's
Oh,
let's
no.
let's load everybody up. So they'll
No.
take like key
Yeah.
crew and then start letting on a limited number of of guests and then see how that goes. Then obviously if a
Exactly.
breakout happens on the ship, which is I think that's another important thing for people to understand, is that a cruise ship is like a walking what do you call them, hot box for germs, bacteria, things like
It
that.
really is. Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
recycled air, isn't it?
Yeah. The air
So
conditioning, all this. It's not a perfect space to start off with 5,000 people right from the get-go. So yes, like right now, just for you guys to have an idea, when the company starts, they did mention, and it's something that you can look up on the internet, it's been publicly announced as well, is just for you to have an idea, at least with Carnival, is like when they actually start, the whole process again, uh, they're planning to start with 8 ships only out of the 27, 28 that we actually have on the fleet. So they're
wow.
starting to start with 8.
Yeah.
So do the math.
Right.
Not all of us are going to be called at this point.
Right.
So
It's a
and
lot
there's
of
a lot
people
of people
without work.
a lot of people without work. Right, for example, right now, these 2 months that we were in quarantine on the ship, this was the time where thousands of crew members from other parts of the world that they had already their vacation, they were already scheduled to come back and replace all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? We were there on the ship in quarantine, and then they can't get out of their own countries. And these are crew members that don't have a job. They haven't started their contract yet. So who do you think is going to start first?
Yeah.
All of these people that haven't had their contracts yet. So
Right.
then that's the reason why I tell you that for us, that we just got off the ship,
Mm-hmm.
we're not being called anytime soon at this point.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
Amanda Hawthorne. She's
Yeah.
saying that she agrees like the 12 to 18 month wait for a new crew, and she estimates 4 to 6 months for returning crew at best. Smaller ships are going to be first, which
Yes.
makes a lot of sense to me.
Yes.
Um,
She is completely right, and that's how it's going to be, and that's how we were. Because we were receiving all of this information from our end from Carnival, and this is how it's going to start. Smaller ships, just to see what's going to happen out there, how it's going to be handled, how guests are going to react, how crew members are going to react. It's going to be a whole different life, a whole new different type of vacationing, if you will, and on the ship. It's going to look differently. You can even see on the internet that most of the ships, all of them probably are going to take away the buffet
mm-hmm.
areas for guests.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
not going to happen anymore, to make sure that there's no cross contaminations and
Even places out here, like just Whole
Yeah.
Foods, there's no more buffet. Everything's prepackaged.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So unfortunately, it's going to look that way, and that's our new normal. So we don't know yet. As we speak, I'm pretty sure the company is just working out all of these new things that are going to happen on board once we start operations.
Sure. Now,
Yeah.
I know the goal was to kind of hold off on the Q&A, but since we don't have we're not bombarded with questions, I feel like we can kind of trickle them in. David is asking, do you feel that many crew members will be turned off and not want to return to working on the ships based on this experience?
Well, they shouldn't. We shouldn't, because it's something that we did not ask for. Nobody asked for this, so it shouldn't affect the way how you see ship life. It was just something that happened, and we need to learn how to live with it now, unfortunately. But it shouldn't affect your decision to go back to the ships. Yes, it's going to look differently for sure. I'm even curious to know what my new role is going to be, how to approach guests. Is it going to be with a mask? Is it going to be with a visor? I don't know. So things are going to look differently, but probably, yes, many crew members might see this like, I might not come back, I didn't like this, but it shouldn't affect anything, in your opinion, because it's just something that we didn't ask for, and it just happened, and we just so happened to live it, and we're all living it right now. So
Something that I can see happening, however, is because of the uncertainty right now with
Yes, of course.
with income and career wise, if
Yeah.
if I just signed off, for example, if I was in your position and I had to start looking at another job, let's say you're anticipating that you're not going to be able to work until on the ships again, and start the Shiplife thing again until early 2021, at best late 2020, then I would probably start looking for another job. And then what may happen
Yes.
is that new job has some interesting things to offer.
But that's the thing. I mean, yes, that's a good point. Don't get me wrong. Right now, I'm not expecting nobody to just be at home doing nothing because at least I don't like to do that. I need to be active doing something.
Yeah.
So for sure, like if you're going to be, if you see that coming, that forecast that that for a few months or until the end of this year, you're not going to have a job for sure. Please, by all means, go ahead, look for another job. Who knows? This job can offer you something that you were looking for, and there's no need for you to go back to a ship, even if you were considering it. I mean, at this point, everything is so uncertain that we don't know. Nobody knows. Not even the CEO probably knows at this point. They're still figuring out things. Recruiters are figuring out things. Us crew members are figuring out things. I mean, you name it. Everybody's figuring out everything because it's a day-by-day basis. So by all means, look for something to do because you're going to have to keep busy and keep money coming in because you don't know. I don't know when we're going back. So it's something that we should do.
Now, I can't remember if this is something we actually touched on in this live stream or before we actually started, because I know we started a little bit of a conversation beforehand, but I know that there's a certain amount of frustration with applicants and the lack of expectation, but also people that you've been talking to on the cruise ship, friends of yours who are just frustrated that they don't know who to blame, they don't know who to talk to, that in addition to being isolated, they're away from their families and this and that, and I know that the cruise line is trying to do everything they can, but what are some things that you've experienced on the cruise ship that you really that stuck with you in terms of how people are reacting to this situation?
Well, in this case, like a lot of people were coping with it differently. So a lot of people were growing angry and upset, sad. Of course, all of us were distant from our family members, from your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever you name it. We were all on the same ship, on the same situation. What I would advise during that time and what we all did is just come together, and if you needed to talk to someone, is just talk, because you can't assume, because a lot of people hide behind a smile. A lot of people hide behind jokes, and you take it like, oh, he's okay, oh, she's okay, but you don't know that this is a coping mechanism. For them, it's something different, and they might be like that in front of you, but you don't know how they are behind closed doors. You don't know what they're thinking. And unfortunately, some of these crew members, well, they decided to end it just there for themselves.
Did you see this personally, or was this just news from other ships?
No, this was at least in my ship, thank God it did not happen.
Right.
Because in our ships, it was basically Caribbean people and Latin people. So most of us were just partying and having a good time. So maybe you didn't have time to think about that.
Sure.
But nonetheless, a lot of people were very, very
It hits people differently.
Exactly. Where this happened was basically they were three European people. These were ships going to Europe, and we just received the sad news that they decided to end their life, unfortunately. I'm not going to go too much into this, but
sure.
What I'm trying to say is that you can't assume how a person feels. It's just better to reach them out, talk to them. It's because you need human contact, because we were practicing and we still are practicing social distancing. So keeping us apart was playing with your mind.
Yeah.
You're alone in your cabin, you have nothing else to do, like you're in the internet or there's nothing good on TV. You just sleep, you eat. So the mind can be powerful and can start playing with you,
Right.
and it could be very dangerous for some people because some people can't handle it that well, and it takes you to think things that you shouldn't think about. So it's just we were just all together as friends and trying to communicate with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
It's something I was just talking to my wife about the other day is that, human beings are creatures of habit and routine. And, on the cruise ship, for a lot of people, it's easier to just fall into their regular routine. And then all of a sudden, it's been 6 months and you're done. You're working anywhere from 12 to 14 hours a day or whatever. And
Exactly.
if all you're thinking about is work, then
There's no time to think anything else.
exactly. But now all
Yeah.
of a sudden you're given all of this extra time,
Yeah.
and now you just don't know what the heck to do with it.
Even though a lot of people back home, because I know people are curious what happened on ships, but yes, probably people are saying on land, oh my God, they're having the great time of their lives. They're on ships. Like, it's not that we suffered. No, it's like the amount of free time that we had, you have to be very careful on how to use it. You have to keep your mind active, read a book, play a board game, be with your friends, I don't know, do something that will keep your mind busy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that a lot of people were trying to do. And then it was getting a little bit harder along the way, because on the second month, they started, we went into phase 3, where we had phase 3 means that we have to be confined in our own cabins. We had a schedule depending on the decks that you're living in. We had a specific schedule for breakfast, lunch, dinner, tea time. The gym was closed.
Mm-hmm.
Gym was completely closed in all of the ships to make sure that we keep our social distancing. And this is
Right.
a confined area, right? So there were many areas that were shut down for the same reason, to practice social distancing, to keep us healthy. And all of this was adding up to more frustration to a lot of crew members on board. So you have to become more, I don't know, you had to do something to keep you busy.
Right.
So that's why we were spending a lot of time with our friends. We would go out on tea time, at least an hour. I mean, it wasn't all, nice. We were just confined in our cabins at that point.
Right. And well, everything that you're
Yeah.
talking about still applies even before quarantine. I've said it in a couple other videos that, like, you really do have to make the effort sometimes to do, I guess I want to call it extracurricular activities, Like, I remember when I was on the ship, there was a point where I literally stayed in my cabin. If it was, I mean, I still worked, but, if I go to work and then I go back to my cabin and then I'm just there.
Yeah.
And it was like 5 days in a row where I was just like in my cabin. And after that 5th day, I just felt
You had to do
this
something.
this darkness upon me.
Yeah.
So like I didn't even want to get off. This was like 4 months into the contract, where like I've been to all the ports already. I know what to expect,
Yes.
and so
Yes, that
well,
happens a lot.
and so in quarantine now, like, you're not going into the ports, right?
No, we
Right.
can't.
Because
No,
you're in
no.
lockdown. So
We're in
it's
lockdown.
not even like you can, like, well, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna go out into Naples and get a pizza, or you know what
That
I
would have
mean.
been amazing.
But no, you can't even do that. So
No.
the most sunlight
No.
you're gonna get is if you go into, like, what, deck 5 or something like that, and just take in
Deck
some sun.
5, deck 10, where the pools are, that's all
Exactly.
you have. Just walk around. No, we were visiting a lot of ports because we were coming in and out, but at this point, no, we couldn't go out. It's for our own safety, and
everybody else's
obviously the
too.
ports that everybody else's.
Yeah.
We couldn't risk it. The idea of all this confinement, it's not because the company wanted to be mean, or you hear all this crazy stories in the media. Oh my God, I'm stuck on a ship and they don't want to let us out. These are people that are, I'm sorry, they're idiots. They didn't see. I mean, they didn't see the real situation.
Sure.
And they were not. The real situation was that we couldn't risk anybody going out
Of
and
course.
then coming back and then infecting it only takes one.
Mm-hmm.
It only takes one.
Yeah.
If we allow somebody out and then this person comes back, then 900 crew members on board, sayonara. Then
I
what
was
was the point?
I was watching this it was a YouTube video on cruise ships and during lockdown and quarantine, and they talked about the norovirus, and this happened several years ago, but they ended up confining guests to their own cabins, and I remember them interviewing this one couple or whatever, and they were saying like, what's the big deal, and this and this, and they just had this very small mindset. So the idea when you mentioned like these people are just being idiots, it's like they're not thinking of the bigger picture here.
Correct.
You're only
They're
thinking
not.
about yourself.
Correct. Selfishness. So
Right.
it is what it is, and I'm sorry that I said it, but it's how a lot of people were thinking, unfortunately, and
Yeah.
that was not the type of mindset that we needed on board.
Right.
And because the point was to keep us healthy, because the company was working extremely hard in communication with all of our governments to make sure that we reach our countries at a given time.
How
But
often did
the
you have
whole
like
idea-
teams like sanitizing everything
every day,
every day?
every day, around the clock.
Yeah, I bet.
Around the clock. So like a normal day now, when we started using the masks, we started every time we stepped foot out of our cabins, it had to be masked on all the time.
Did they supply you guys
came-
with the masks too?
Yes, they did, for
That's
sure.
great.
They did, and they were actually made on board.
Nice.
So the basically the housekeeping manager
Probably
in
by
my-
Filipinos.
Probably. It was housekeeping. I remember that in my ship, Carnival Magic, we became a factory, a mask factory, every single time, because we were doing the daily meetings with the hotel director and management on board. So the housekeeping manager, she would always mention every day, like, oh, today we did 3,000. Oh, tomorrow we were expecting to do like around 2,000 masks. Like they became a factory of masks.
Wow.
Because we had to be prepared. So we were using it every single day. It came to a point that I felt naked without it. So right? Like now it's something that you need. That it's like your phone. If you leave your phone, you feel naked. Oh my God, where's my phone?
Right.
So it became a habit. It became a habit for us. So yeah, they took really good care of us, and I'm very much grateful. Now I'm here at home.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, in terms of, we talked a little bit about the future. We talked about like, the change from what it was like before and after. I like, just for me, when I think about all of this, it's just, and for those of you who don't know, like I haven't been on cruise ships since 2017, February 2017, and the reason I have this channel is more for everybody else, than for me, because I still believe in the opportunity, but it baffles me, my mind, when I think about something like this, because it's such a drastic change to a very particular lifestyle. And you already feel like you're a prisoner on the ship in some way. And now that you literally cannot get off, like how that has to play with the mind, like, at the very least, if you're able to, get off and, I've got this one port that I really love on this cruise, and that's the only port that I get off on. And now you just can't ever get off. Like one of those ports for me was like Cozumel. Love getting off on Cozumel. But I could just only imagine if the ship did you guys dock even, or were you just sailing around forever?
So yes, at first the process that we started is that we were just floating around, to be honest, just floating around the Bahamas, and that was it. But when we started the operations of repatriation to all the crew members for the different countries that we visited, some countries allowed us to dock, and other countries just preferred
But you had to
for
be
the
6 feet away from the dock, right?
yes, just there's oh my god, social distancing was important also. But the thing is that some ports only allowed us to disembark the crew members with the lifeboats,
Hmm.
so we
You
didn't
you
really
sent me
actually
some
dock.
some you sent me some
I
some photos
did,
of that, right? Let me load
yeah.
this up real quick, so people can see what you sent
They
me.
can see the whole movie unraveling.
Yeah, hang on.
It's a big, huge Hollywood movie that doesn't stop rolling. That's for sure.
Let me check this out real quick. All right, let me load this in here.
So yeah, I mean, some countries were taking measurements from their side as well because they were concerned, about ships because we were having a lot of bad media around the world, like people saying, "Oh my God, these ships, they're all infected. Don't allow them to come in. They're sick. They're gonna bring more infected people to our country." So a lot of people were just freaking out. So that's the reason why the company itself had a lot of issues in getting us a specific date to reach our countries. And not, it wasn't because the company didn't want to. It's because our own governments were just denying it over and over again.
Hmm.
They were trying to figure out you know, how to receive us.
Right. Are you watching the stream right now?
Hold on.
Because so I have one of the images you sent me up on the screen right now, and it's an aerial view, and it looks like people viewing a
Life
lifeboat,
raft.
right? Yeah,
Oh yeah, I
right
see it.
now
Yeah,
from the top down. Um,
that's on.
so tell me what's going on here.
So that's on deck 11
Mm-hmm.
because then after that they moved us everybody to guest cabins, right?
Okay.
In the hopes of still practicing social distancing and keeping us all in one cabin,
Yeah.
like individually. So I was in deck 11, and this is actually the very first time that we started the repatriation process. All of the ships got together, like I think 17 or 18 of them, around that amount. 17, 18 Carnival ships were all together on one spot, and you could see all of these lifeboats coming in and out, making sure that the crew members were reaching to the ships that they needed to be.
Let me load this
So
up. Hold on. You're talking
yeah,
about a bunch of ships
the
being in the same place at the
in the
same
same
time.
place.
Hold
Yeah, it
on.
was so surreal.
Wait a second. For those of
That
you
was
that are
amazing.
watching right now, like, just check this out. This is pretty crazy. Bear with me. I'm new to this. I'm new. But look at this. I don't remember the last time I've seen all of the ships from the same cruise line just like all together at the same time.
Yes,
It's
can you
it's like
imagine that?
it's like Avengers Endgame for Carnival.
I tell you, it's a big movie being rolled in. I'm pretty sure. Yes, can you see? It's so surreal. There you go. See, it, I was looking at that with my own two eyes, and I could not wrap it around that this was actually happening. It was so surreal.
So you're telling me
It's
that in this moment that they're
Yeah.
all each of the ships are unloading crew.
Yes.
What port? What
So
what what port are they going to?
So some of these ships that you see there, not all of them are going to different continents. Some just a few amount were selected to make sure that they were going to reach, Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, Caribbean. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just a handful of us that were actually going for the repatriation process, but other ships were having crew members from those countries. So that was the purpose to for all of these ships to meet in one spot to make sure that whoever from Latin America was on this ship was going to the ship that was actually going to Latin America. Europeans that needed to go to Europe, they were getting off ships that were not going actually to Europe, but they were being signed on to the ship that was assigned to go to Europe or Africa. We were just making sure that all of these nationalities were on the proper ship
Mm-hmm.
that was going to take us home. That
Got
was
it.
the whole procedure.
Okay.
So you can see these are incredible images. It's just incredible.
That's like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 Carnival cruise ships, and these are big.
That's just on one side. On the other
Right.
side, you can count. It's incredible. But yeah,
How many total were there?
I think I'm not really sure. I don't remember. I know they told me the amount, but I'm pretty sure it was around 17, 18, probably 20 ships. Only
Wow.
Carnival ships. Carnival ships. So we were all together in one spot. So, and then you can see when the process started, you can see all of these little um, safe boats, just coming in and out of the ships, bringing crew members with their luggages. It was quite impressive.
Wow. Well, okay. So here I have another image where
I think this is where we reached our first Caribbean port. This was St. Vincent. Just
well,
to
I'm
make
gonna
sure.
I'm gonna throw
Yeah.
this up on the podcast, and so for those who can't see it, it's a top-down aerial view, and you're actually in docked right now.
Yes, we're docked in St. Vincent. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it
So
was St.
in the
Vincent.
Bahamas, where is Saint
In the
Vincent?
Yes. So
Okay.
right now, this was the very first port, because the first port that we were actually scheduled to reach was Cozumel, Mexico.
Okay.
But then right after, this is where I was explaining that people were growing frustrated because they were giving a date, but then the date was taken away.
Mm-hmm.
So Cozumel, our itinerary was changing daily,
Mm-hmm.
daily. So Cozumel was taking off the list, and then our official first port was St. Vincent to leave the crew members that lived there.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were very curious to see how this small island was going to handle the procedure of receiving their own nationals. We were all just waiting for this to, it was just something that we were waiting for to see how this was going to handle. We got there, we docked, and then obviously the port authorities from St. Vincent, everybody with their medical gear, their masks and visors and whatnot, with their gloves and stuff. They were checking, I think it was like around 100 and 140, 150 crew members that were from St. Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
So we left them there. They did some tests on them. I had a friend from St. Vincent. He told me that they did the virus, the test and everything. Everybody was healthy. And then at the same time, they took them to quarantine to a hotel.
Now, do you know if it was a full test or was it just an antibody test?
What I do know, it was the swab test, the cotton swab test. That I think that goes up all the way up to your
Into
nose
your
or
brain?
something. God, yes. I didn't get that one though. It was blood test, but they did that one. So test came out negative. Everybody was really good. And the reason why, before we go into this, is that when we started all of this, the company asked fleet-wide for all of us to take temperature checks
Mm-hmm.
twice a day.
Is that the one where they shoot the little laser at your forehead?
The little laser on
Uh-huh.
your head, yes. Every single day
Mm-hmm.
until the day that we actually left the ship. So we were being tested for our temperature twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon. There were a lot of announcements on the ship reminding everybody, like, please make sure to go to this area of the ship to take your temperature check. And the reason why, because I was doing that on guest services. Guest services was taking temperature checks for most of the departments on board. We were having a track on it on an Excel sheet. So we were having a track of every single day of your temperature. Why? Because by the time that we reached a final destination or a country that we're going to leave or repatriate crew members, the government of that place was asking for this information to make sure that all of us, or the people that were going to sign off on that country, were healthy. So that's the reason why they were checking a lot for the temperature. So in St. Vincent, yeah, it was really quick. We in and out. We just went in, crew members went off, they were examined, tested, everything, and quarantined for 14 days in a hotel that the government paid for them.
Right.
And then right after that, after that, everything ran smoothly. Every single port we were visiting, everything was running smoothly. Every single crew member getting off from our ship were healthy. So
That's
it
great.
paid off.
Yeah.
It paid off. Yeah.
So okay, so here's another thing, right? When it comes to, for example, vaccines, flu shots, things like that, I know there's a lot of crew. Like in my experience, I've met a lot of people who resist the the uh, the cruise ship's initiative in fighting illnesses, by trying to give vaccines and things like that. Did you experience any people on the ship who were exhibiting anything like that? To the COVID-19 threat, where maybe they just felt like this is not real, and it's not that serious.
Honestly, no, because ship life is a different type of lifestyle that we know that we are responsible for.
Yeah.
All of us on board. It's a very small area, so we knew that we needed to comply with whatever was being asked from us.
That's great.
Especially if it came to our own health. No, I didn't really see anybody resist. Oh, I don't want to do this test. I don't need to do it.
Sure.
I don't believe in this. No. Quite honestly, we did not even security or any management on board dealt with this type of problems like, oh, I don't want to do this because I don't feel like it. We knew that we needed to get home at some point, and we needed to know if we were healthy or not. So
Right.
Nobody resisted.
Well, that makes sense, because it's like, well, I'm not going to do this, and then you get home, and then you spread it to your entire family.
Exactly.
But yeah, the reason I bring it up is because, for example, I don't know if you guys had the same procedures on Carnival. When I was on Celebrity, I would say about every few months they would do, whenever they knew there was a new strain of the flu, they would do a flu shot on the ship.
Oh yeah, this flu shot. Okay, well that's a different story. Well, to clarify, because we were all concerned about the COVID-19, there was no resistance on that one. Yes. But when it came to the normal flu shot that they give you on medical center, yes, there's a lot of people that really don't do it because they feel like, some of them say, oh no, like every time I take that flu shot, I get sick.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't take it, I don't get sick. So people just have their own ideas of it.
Right.
But yes, for that one in specific, yes.
Yeah. And
yes,
we don't have to go into the whole vaccine debate. We don't need to talk about that. But at the same time, that's where that's coming from, because, I see. I've seen a lot of people who really resist it. And
for that one, yes, for that one, yes. But for the COVID-19, because it was uncharted territory and everybody was really concerned, yes, for that one, nobody ever said anything.
Okay.
We did what we had to do to make sure that nobody was infected.
Now, how about the news? Were you guys keeping up with the news on the ship?
Yes, very negative, of course. Especially for us, because a lot of crew members were doing interviews with local news in the States.
Well, how are they doing that? Oh, when they got home?
No, they were on board. I think this was in Princess. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you, which company was it?
Crew was coming on the news crew were coming on the ship?
No. They were able to. So this specific news that I saw, these people were actually from my country and some of the Central American countries. And
for those of you who don't know, Daniel is from Honduras.
Mm-hmm. Central America.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I remember that we saw this news, a news anchor from, I think it was Miami, that the ship was stopped. Somehow they got, because I remember that I saw something on Facebook where these news anchors were sending out these links for their personal email. Like, if you want to provide like a lighter information on what's going on board, email me here, email me there. This is a good story to sell and to air it, right? So they were looking for a lot of crew members. I don't know if these crew members received something in return. We don't know. But the thing is that in this interview, we saw that these people, like the news anchor was out on the pier, and then the camera just was just focusing these crew members on deck 11 or on the upper decks
What?
outside, and they were just talking through the phone. And
Oh,
you can hear the audio, but the cameraman just blurred, obviously, the faces of the crew
sure.
members because they were afraid of, whatever they were going to say or said, they were going to be fired. um, but yes, this is something that was happening a lot, and a lot of crew members were trying to provide this type of information to a lot of news anchors, local news, in the state. So we did see a lot of this going on, and sadly, crew members that did not provide accurate information because in their minds
Mm,
they honestly think that the company was keeping us there in jail, like
mm,
they didn't want to let us go, they didn't want to take us home. And they were taking this way too personal. And it was easier for them to blame, like you said, it's easy to blame the company. Oh,
yeah.
Carnival or whatever cruise line, they don't want to take me home. Why are they doing this? Like it wasn't the case. Like for the company, it was incredibly hard to get us here where we are today, because it wasn't them, it was our own governments giving them a hard time.
Right.
you know yeah, but it happened a lot.
Wow. But
Yeah.
so in terms of the news interview, they were just there and then they would just call in. That's how that would work.
Yeah, they were on the phone call. The news anchor called and everything, and she just
Then they just
started.
conduct the interview via the phone.
Exactly. They
Oh,
just
that makes
conducted the
sense.
interview. Yeah. So he was whatever question she had, and he responded and so forth. But she never made it on board because nobody is allowed at that
Right.
point to go on board or out. So that's the reason why the cameraman was just focusing the crew
Right.
members all the way up.
I had
So,
this really stupid image in my head where the camera guy's down here and the interviewer is like holding the microphone. How's it going up there? I
oh,
it
how do you feel?
sucks.
It would have been nice,
Yeah.
but no, it was through the phone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's some crazy times, man, and you know, I know we kind of touched on it earlier, but like it keeps I keep thinking about how everything is going to change right now. I think about, for example, stocks. If you wanted
Oh,
if you wanted to buy stock in
now's the time.
such and such cruise line, well, like now would be the time if you anticipate they're gonna go up. However, if they're
Exactly.
just gonna if they're just gonna go bankrupt in the next 12 months,
Well, that's the thing. That's nobody knows.
right,
Nobody knows that. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of faith that they're gonna jump right in, and they're gonna, hopefully, I hope, because a lot of people, a lot of us depend on this jobs, thousands of us. But yeah, stocks right now are incredibly low, so a lot of people are risking it.
yeah,
So, but we don't know. We
right,
just really don't know how this is going to react in the next few years. But
right,
for sure, it's gonna be a very bumpy start.
right.
That's
Well,
for
I'm
sure.
I'm
And
gonna change gears here, and we're gonna go back to um, uh, living quarters, and
oh
I before we started the podcast, you were also talking about how you were in a guest cabin.
yeah,
Tell me about that, because that's cool. I mean, the difference between a crew cabin where you can stick your arms out and touch both
and
sides of the wall, and then go to a crew cabin where it's like, whoa, and actually have a bed that's nice. You can realistically fit two people in that bed. Like tell me more about that.
yeah. Well, we at first we didn't really know this was gonna actually happen, but eventually it was going to
How did they tell
for
you?
the social. So we found out because we started seeing news from other cruise lines. We saw that Disney started moving their crew members to guest cabins. Royal Caribbean started moving crew members to guest cabins, but still Carnival, we haven't received any news yet. So
Oh
we
no.
were we're like, when is it gonna be our turn? Like,
What
okay,
the?
like
Come on.
Disney is in guest cabins, Royal is in guest cabins, like,
The
and
cabinet's
then
like fake news, fake news.
right, but like we were just standing there like, when are we gonna receive our? When is it gonna be our time? Like, I can't be here anymore. Like, so the news, you couldn't walk away from that news. So we were receiving that information, but eventually, then right after that, it had no point to keep two crew members confined into one small space if we were supposedly, you know, practicing social distancing, right?
Sure.
So this is where the company already sent an official email where crew members were going to start moving to guest cabins to make sure that each of us are confined in our own space, a private space, to make sure that we are distant enough, and all this in the midst of this whole idea of keeping us healthy. And it paid off. It really did pay off to follow all these rules. No, when we found out, like, we were like actually excited. Like, for us, guest services, we were not expecting. A lot of people thought they were going to give us the suites and the with balconies and everything. It didn't really happen for us like that.
No.
We were moved to, but you know what? When we're in that position, we have a lot of privileges, and we know better not to complain.
Right.
Because we are the face, and we are the ones who provide that image to everybody else, not only to the guests but to crew as well.
That's great.
Because we're the face of the ship. So we were actually fine. We were moved, at least in Carnival Magic. We were moved to deck 1, a porthole, a huge window where you could actually sit down, and that was actually perfectly fine. And it was a large room. We had our big bed. The AC was even colder than our crew cabins, like a freezer, our TVs and everything.
Everything just worked better.
Everything worked. And the best part is that they opened internet, unlimited internet for all of us. Not only Carnival, but eventually all of the cruise lines did this for all of their crew members. We didn't have to pay for the internet.
Yeah.
So we had that for free, and we had access to everything. So we had communications with our family members and friends continuously. So that was a nice perk. And yeah, they moved us to guest cabins because of this reason, to keep us distant.
So I have seen some of my friends on like Facebook, and they'll post, and some of them actually did get like balcony cabin suites and stuff like that. But at the same time, I know that obviously that's limited,
Yes. Well, in our case, the people who received the suites and larger cabins were basically management.
Officers, officer level.
Officers as well. Exactly. We on Magic, that was my official ship, but then after that, all Latin American people and Caribbeans had to move to Carnival Glory because this was the one to actually take us home. So by the time I actually moved, I left Carnival Magic and we went to New Orleans to Carnival Glory. To my surprise, I was given, I didn't ask for it, on deck 11, a balcony cabin on the spa cabins. Very spacious, very nice. I think I have some pictures there. I didn't send them to you, but I had a huge balcony, a big TV, everything very nicely just for me, and
That's
it paid
awesome.
off.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so it was very nice.
So, tell me, did you have cabin parties?
I am no liberty to discuss that.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
We had some book reading meetings.
Okay, got it.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah, like
sure.
We're just gonna leave it at that.
Right. Yeah, make sure you go over the training manual so everybody understands how many,
how many lifeboats we have, how many people we can fit on one, and all
Right.
with a nice bottle of wine just to make sure we're concentrated.
Exactly. Right. Absolutely.
Yes, we had our times with our friends. There was really nothing else to do anyways. So.
Right. 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 No, that's awesome. I'm glad. Like what I'm really happy about is knowing that despite this situation that could have gone really really wrong,
Mm,
the company did, I would say, as much as they could, to make sure people were happy while minimizing the outbreak, you know.
yes.
So,
And I'm glad you bring this up, and I'll use this opportunity to say it, at least for me, and I can speak for a lot of people. I honestly, the company could have done things very differently, but the way how they handled the things, we are incredibly impressed. I am incredibly grateful for how the company handled everything from start to finish and still going on. Because today, my Colombian brothers and sisters actually made it to Colombia today,
nice.
and they were, yes. So Carnival is still repatriating as we speak. So I honestly, there's really no space for negativity on how they handled things. It was incredible. Oh, there you, I saw it. So
The little fly.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it was amazing. I mean, they took great care of us, and I feel in debt. And like I said, as soon as I receive this email, I'm for sure saying yes. I'm going
Boom.
and going back to ships.
That's right. I want to
Yeah.
jump in here real quick and say, and we're gonna start opening it up to Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, just throw them on in there. Obviously while I'm here, Daniel's here, we can try as much as possible to answer your questions. Francisco's asking, are cruises hiring right now? So
Which one?
Daniel, Francisco's asking if cruises are hiring right now.
Oh, uh, to my knowledge, no. I'm pretty sure Amanda, if she's still there, she can provide us enlighten us on that part. But as far as I know, no, openings are closed at this time, because the company is planning to work currently with crew members that are existent within the company. And the thing is that the company is not, at least with Carnival, we're not going to start with all of our ships fleet wide at the same time. So it's going to take a lot of patience and time for things to go back to how they were before, kind of. Because like I mentioned before, at least with Carnival, I'm not really sure with what companies you applied with. Carnival is going to start with 8 ships so far as what we know from this year. So you can imagine that not everybody is going to be called, not even me. So no, right now, unfortunately, these spots are closed for now. This is what I know, but I don't know exactly how recruiters are handling this.
Right. I would say to give some expectation as well. Don't be surprised if you're also, if you manage to sit down with a recruiter and they're like, yeah, you'd be a great fit in this and this, and you're technically accepted, but they can't give you a start date yet. So,
No,
you may be a great fit for X, Y, and Z position, but
correct.
but then you don't hear back from them for like 3 months, 4 months, 6 months.
Yeah, the good thing that you brought it up. Yes, please don't be surprised. You know what's going on. It's a global pandemic. It's a global pandemic. Nobody knows exactly when this is going to start. Like I said before from the beginning, not even me, that I'm an active crew member. I don't know. Like I said, I was supposed to be on my ship since yesterday on my 4th contract, and no, it's not going to happen now, unfortunately. So you're just going to have to be patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that said, it doesn't look like we have a lot of other questions coming through. Daniel, I want to thank you for giving the time
My
to
pleasure.
to enlighten the other people out there. Again, you guys, thank you so much for watching Shiplife TV. Again, the goal for this channel is to raise awareness of the opportunity of working on cruise ships and help new and existing crew have an enjoyable experience. And hopefully you guys got some value out of this episode. If you did, hit the subscribe button, like the video. If you're listening on the podcast, follow the podcast. But with that being said, Daniel, thanks for your time, and we'll call it a day.
Thank you. My pleasure.